Hello my gorgeous friends of Webflow, I'm Francesco, and if you don't know who am I, well, in this channel we do Webflow things and we make them simple and accessible to everybody from time to time by using a whiteboard. But today we are going to use the whiteboard just to showcase some of the things that we are going to learn together. But how are we going to do that? Well, we are going to recreate the navbar and mega menus that we can see on Webflow's website. And this will be quite a long build because we will start from scratch, but this will be a honest and complete build. We will go from start to finish and I will explain each and every step of the process. And we are going to do even a bit more than that, because of course we are going to talk about mega menus, grids, drop-downs, even embedded SVGs. But we are also going to add a drop-down animation to Webflow mega menus, and you will see me debugging inside Webflow. We will talk about Webflow workarounds, naming conventions for classes and animations. We will talk about Japanese, except that we won't talk about Japanese. But more importantly, we're going to talk about Webflow Components, the new Webflow Components, and how to link them with Webflow CMS. And we are going to do all these things while building Webflow's navbar and mega menus. And this project will be, of course, available as part of my Webflow-friendly components library, and you will find the link to the library in the description down below. But now, without further ado, let's just jump right into Webflow. And there we go. We are going to start with a completely blank project, so we're going to do everything from scratch. This is Webflow Designer, this is Webflow's homepage, and we are going to use the actual navbar from Webflow's website to keep track of what we are doing and to also inspect a few properties from time to time. And in the very first part of the video, we are going to build the structure of the navbar. So basically what we can see here with no interactions, no mega menus, and we are not going to use Webflow components. Then after building the structure, we are going to add the very first interactions, then we are going to build these mega menus here, and finally we are also going to use Webflow components. But let's do everything step by step and slowly. So let's go back to our Webflow designer, and the first thing that I'm going to do is, by using the keyboard shortcut Control or Command E, I'm going to add a navbar to my project, and let's give it a class of navbar. Then let's set the background color to white, and let's also add white to our color swatch list. So let's create a new swatch here, and we also need to add a bottom border, solid 1 pixel, and the color needs to be E4, E4, E4. And yeah, let's also add this color to our swatch list. And then one important thing for the navbar is that it needs to stick, and so we need to set its position to sticky, and don't forget to set the top offset to 0, otherwise anything won't work. And then inside the navbar, I'm not going to use this default container here because I don't want to deal with Webflow default properties for this pre-made component. So I'm going to add my own container. So by selecting the navbar here, Command or Control E, let's look for container and add a new container. As you can see here, Webflow anyway adds this container outside of the navbar, so let's just drag and drop it inside the navbar, and I'm going to call this container main container. And we just need onto this container, we just need to set its maximum width. We are going to use REMs throughout all this build, and so here, for example, we are going to set the maximum width to 1280 pixels divided by 16 to then convert the value in pixels to REMs. So 80 REMs. And that's it for the main container. Now inside the main container, we are going to add a div block, and this will be our navbar content content wrapper. Now, one thing to notice, but this is just my way of doing things, is that to give a name to this component, I used Navbar, which is basically the name of the component we are building, because we're building a navbar, then underscore to highlight the fact that this div block is a child of the navbar, and then something that is meaningful and that is related to the role that this div block will have inside the component that we are building. And because this will be the actual wrapper for the content of the navbar, I call it content wrapper. So this is kind of a rule that I tend to follow. And yeah, this content wrapper needs to have its display property set to flex. And because we want all the elements inside this content wrapper to be equally distributed, and we also want the very first element on the left to be pushed towards the left border here, and the last elements we want it to be pushed towards the right border of this container, we are going to set the justify property to space between. And then we can simply just drag and drop all these three elements from the old container to our content wrapper. So let's start with the brand link block, then the nav menu, then the menu button here. And we can now delete the old container. Now for the brand link, let's call it navbar underscore, following the same rule, brand. And inside here, we want, of course, to add a Webflow logo based on what we can see here in the actual nav menu. And how can we do that? We can try to see if we can grab the actual SVG from the navbar itself. And to do that, we are going to inspect the page. Now, we could use or type the F12 key on the keyboard, or, for example, we can right-click on the page and look for something like inspect. I'm using Chrome. And then by clicking this icon, little icon at the top left corner here of this right panel, but chances are that this panel maybe could open here at the bottom or maybe on the left. But anyway, yeah, it's easy, very easy to spot. And then by clicking here onto this icon, we can hover over the logo here, click on the logo, and we can see here that the logo has been added as an SVG element inside the actual HTML structure of the page. And so what we can do now to embed the logo inside our project is we can right click here where it says SVG, and maybe when you clicked on the logo, chances are that you didn't click on the actual SVG but on the path. But yeah, don't worry. If that was the case, we can just look for the SVG element that is a child, an ancestor of the path. Make sure that if we select this SVG, the logo here gets highlighted. So if I hover over or if I select this SVG element in the panel on the right, I can see that the logo is highlighted. So yeah, we are now sure that we are actually selecting the logo. We can right click on the SVG element and look for something like copy and copy as element or copy element. Then let's click on that option. Let's go back to our dashboard, or actually to our designer. And here, after selecting the navbar brand element, we can add an embed element and we can paste the code inside. We can hit save and close, and we can now see a Webflow logo here. And maybe we could even call it navbar brand logo. Now, one thing to notice is that it's not centered, so we can set the display property of this navbar brand element to flex and then align everything to the center. Now, we can see here that if we hover over the logo turns to purple. Now we are not going to add the actual interaction now, but we wanna anyway add a transition to make sure that we won't forget anything when building the actual interaction. And one thing to notice is that if we select the navbar brand element and we try to edit the actual color here, we can see that by doing that, we are also changing the color of the SVG. But why is it happening? If we double click on the navbar brand logo element, so if we double click onto the embed element, we can see that here, the path, this path tag here has a fill property with a value of current color. And this means that the color of the path, in this case the color of the Webflow logo, gets inherited by its parent. In this case, the navbar brand. In this case, actually, the parent of the actual SVG element or path element is first the SVG, but the SVG as well says current color. So we are inheriting the color from the navbar brand logo embed element. And the navbar brand logo element is inheriting the color from the navbar brand element. And this is why if we change the color of the navbar brand element, we are also changing the color of the SVG element. So this will be important later when we are going to add the actual hover interaction onto this navbar brand element. So for the moment, let's just revert everything here about the font color and just add a transition here, a transition for onto the navbar brand element for the font color, and let's just stick with default value. And for now, that's it. Now let's select the nav menu and let's give it a class of navbar underscore nav menu. And we want this to expand if there's enough space. Actually, we could even, let's say, inspect this property inside the actual Webflow website. And so by clicking once again on this icon at the top left corner here, we can just try to hover over what it seems to be the navbar, click on it, and the navbar is actually this element here, because we can read w nav menu, and this is the default class that Webflow applies to the nav menu element. So this thing here, and we can see that this element also has a class of gnav menu applied, and here, because it says gnav menu, we can read the properties that are set onto this class. And for example, here we can read flex 1, and if we try to expand, we can see flex grow 1, flex shrink 1, flex base is 0%. But how can we use these properties inside Webflow? We can go back to our designer here, navbar, with the navbar nav menu element selected. We can look for flex child dropdown sizing, then these 3 dots, and then here we can see grow, shrink, and basis. So the exact same properties that we've seen here. So grow it was 1, then shrink 1, and then basis it was 0%. And that's it for these properties. Now we also want to detach this navbar nav menu from the logo itself, and so let's also add a left margin of 2 rem to it. And finally, to rem. And finally, we want this nav menu to be a flex box. And once again, we are going to select justify. For the justify property, we are going to select the space between option, because we want that the content is equally distributed and the first element on the left gets pushed toward the left border, and the first element on the right, we want it to be pushed towards the right border of the navbar, the nav menu container. But we can see here that this is not happening, and that's because here if we select the nav link, which is a default Webflow element that comes with the nav menu that comes with the navbar, we can see that Webflow, for, I don't know, internal rules, applies the same margin on the left and on the right on all these elements, and this is causing this behavior here where, for example, the first element is not pushed against the left border of the nav menu. But we can easily solve this by deleting all these nav links, because we are going to add our links to this nav menu. And so let's do it. And actually, before doing this, we are going to add to this nav menu a list, because this will be a bit easier for screen readers, for example, to let's say browse the content of the navbar, or actually of the nav menu inside the navbar. And so it would be better, we can say so, for accessibility purpose, to add a list and then add a link to each list item. And so this list here will be our navbar, and we can call it link list. And we don't need a specific styling, so let's select none. We can also get rid of the left padding, the bottom margin here, and we can use here, let's say, let's use a display of grid now. Let's also get rid of one row, and let's go to the actual navbar. We can see that we have 5 elements. 3 elements are drop-downs, and the last 2 elements are simple text links. So back to our designer, we actually need 5 list items. So let's just copy paste one of them a couple of times. Then this will be our navbar link item. We could either add this class to all of these elements, or probably it would be better to, delete 4 elements and then, copy paste this element a few times until we reach the number of 5. Okay, that's fine. And then, back to this link list here, we want to make sure that the gap between the column is to rem, and we don't really need gap between the rows, so we can click on this label here and click on reset. Now we can see that the items have been added so that after the second column is filled, a new row is created but how can we make sure that we just add a new column every time we add a new item to the list? Well, we could click on edit grid, and here where it says direction, the default value is row. We want to make sure that we click on column, and this will solve the issue. So this is something that we really need to remember, because from time to time it can be very, very helpful. And then let's add to this first list item a drop-down element, and we can call it navbar drop-down. And for this drop-down, we are just going to set the weight to 500, and then we can expand this drop-down and select the drop-down toggle. So this will be our navbar drop-down toggle. And what we need to do to this drop-down toggle, we need to set the font color here, which is 1B, 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 and let's also add this color to our swatch list. So let's create a new swatch. And then we want the padding to be, let's first reset everything. So I'm just holding shift and then clicking and dragging. until we reach the value of 0 for all 4 elements here for properties. And then we need one REM padding for top and bottom. So let's do that. And then the line height needs to be 1.7. The font size is 1 REM. And we are also going to add a couple of transitions here. The first one is for the font color. So let's look for font color. Let's stick with default values. And the other one, and we will see why later, is for the box shadow. And but yeah, let's first try to understand how we can let's say or where we can find this value. How do I know that we need to set, for example, a line height of 1.7? Well, let's go to the actual Webflow website, and by clicking once again onto this little icon at the top left corner, we can try to hover over the drop down toggle, and is this one. And it also says here drop down toggle, so yeah, we are quite sure that this is the actual drop down toggle. And we can see here inside this property panel that the color needs to be this one, and the font size is 1 REM. Font weight gets inherited from the drop down because we set it on the drop down element, and line height is 1.7. So this is how I inspected the code of the page to get the actual values for all the properties. And now let's also expand the drop down toggle. Let's grab the icon and let's give it a class of Navbar drop down icon. And for this icon, we just need a margin left of, so we can get rid of this one and probably even of the top and bottom margin. We just need a left margin of 0.5 REM. And now, yeah, to fix this weird behavior, we first need to change the position of the drop-down icon to static. Then we need to select our drop-down toggle, set its display property to flex, align everything to the center, and then of course we need to switch the position of the text block and the drop-down icon. So let's do that. Let's drag and drop the text block here, and yeah, that's it. Now we can simply select the drop-down toggle and paste it inside these other two list items, and then here we can simply add a text link. And for this text link here, let's use a class of Navbar link. And here we need a font size of 1 REM, once again, weight of 500, line height of 1.7, a color of black. We don't want a text decoration here. And we also want to add a bottom padding, but here we cannot do that because this is not allowed by the inline position. But in this case, yeah, we can simply select display block here so that we can then add a top and bottom padding of 1 REM. And then we can also make sure that the text is centered. So we can do this, align center, and then we can copy this null link element and paste it inside the other list item. And now let's add these 3 CTAs here. And so let's select our nav menu here, Control or Command E to add another div block, and this will be our navbar CTAs wrapper. And this wrapper will be a grid, but before moving on, I just realized that probably, yeah, we didn't set here on the navbar link the same transitions that we have onto the drop-down toggle. So one for box shadow and one for the color. So let's do that before we completely forget about it. So new transition with the navbar link selected. So where is it? Font color, and another one for the box shadow. And yeah, that's it. So we can move on with the CTA's wrapper. So this one, once again, here we can get rid of one row. The gap in this case will be on Webflow website is 10 pixel, but we want to use REMs, so let's divide it by 16 and then use REMs units here. We don't really need this one, so let's just click on the label and then on reset. And we also want to add a top and bottom padding on this grid, on this wrapper. So of 10, so 10 divided 10 pixels, so 10 divided by 16 REMs. Let's use the same value here for the bottom padding. And then we can add a first button here, and we can simply call it CTA. And we are going to use the CTA class to style this button here. So this will be our reference CTA. Then with the combo class, we will move from this one to this one. And with another combo class, we'll move from this base element to this one. So back to the designer here. For this one, for the basic CTA, we need the color to be white. Then we also want the size to be 1 REM, the weight to be medium, and then 1.7. And then we want the background color to be purple. What purple, the color is 4353FF, and let's also add it to our swatch list. So let's create a new swatch. Then we want top and bottom padding of 12 pixels, but yeah, we said that we want to use REM, so let's divide 12 by 16, then use the REM units, same value for the bottom padding. Then left and right, this needs to be 40 and 24 pixels, so let's divide it by 16. Let's use the same value for the right padding, and let's also add a couple of transitions here. The first one will be for the color, and the other one will be for the font color, and the other one will be for the background color. And once again, let's stick with default values. Now we can copy paste it twice, and once again here a new row gets added just because onto the CTA's wrapper we didn't select, so let's edit the grid, we didn't select this column option, so let's do that. So yeah, to fix that issue, and then let's select the first one, the first CTA, and this will be our, let's add a combo class of CC, which stands for combo class. This is something, yeah, a naming convention that I use. CC dash is made in Webflow. And for this one, we want the color to be pure black. I don't think that we are going to add to our color swatch list because we're not going to use it that often, probably. Yeah, let's just do that for the moment. And then we want the background color to be white. And then let's select this one, and let's add a combo class of CC, let's say how it's, yeah, contact sales. So CC contact sales, and for this one the font color needs to be purple, and the background color we are going to use RGBA values here. So let's write RGBA, so red, green, blue, and alpha channel, open and close parentheses, and inside the parentheses we are going to write 67 comma 83 comma 255 and the last value is 0.09. And yes, that's it. Now probably we want to make sure that everything is perfectly centered, but so it seems. But anyway, we can align, yeah, it wasn't. So we can align everything to the center here. We can select our navbar link list and yeah, align property, align items, center. And we can do that even though it seems that it's not necessary. We can do that for our CTA's wrapper. So align to the center. And now we can also see that, for example, here, if we look close, and if we take a closer look, we can see that the space is not even here. I mean, all these columns, if we edit the grid, just have the same width, but because, let's say, the length of the text inside is not the same, here it seems that the gap between the elements is different based on the actual content. And to solve this, and by the way, yeah, let's first change the actual test so this is even more clear. So let's go to Webflow homepage. So the first drop down, it says product. So let's write product. Then solutions. Third one is resources. The third one is enterprise. Enterprise. Then we have pricing. And we have made in Webflow. So made in Webflow. Then we have contact sales. Contact sales. And the last one is view. Actually, this is not uppercase. And then this is view dashboard. And we can also see, yeah, that things look a bit weird because, yeah, it seems that we don't have enough space to accommodate all these elements. Text is not centered. So let's fix everything, yeah, step by step. Here, to fix the text alignment, we can simply select the main CTA, so the one that has the CTA class, not these elements. Otherwise, we are going to edit the actual combo class, and we want to apply this modification on the base class, so onto the CTA class. So let's select this element here, and under typography, align center, and this is one thing fixed. Then here, to fix this kind of misalignment, or I don't know, it seems again that we are running out of space, we can first select our nav link list, edit the grid, so we can click here or here on the style panel where it says edit grid, and instead of using one FR for all the columns, we can make them adjust based on the actual content inside, and we can do that by clicking here where it says 1FR and write auto. Then let's do the same for the second column, and let's do the same for this one as well. And then because this because these three columns are auto-generated, we can just click on the very first one, edit the property, and yeah, this property will change for these other two columns. And then we can do the same for the CTA buttons. So let's edit the CTA's wrapper grid. We can click on the first column, and yeah, use a value of auto. Click on the second column here, use a value of auto, and let's do the same for the auto-generated column, auto. And yeah, we can see now that we basically have the exact same result that we can see here. And now the next step is we are going to add the very first interactions to our link. So basically, we are going to build this simple interactions with this kind of border that is growing from the bottom, and we are also going to set the interactions for all these CTA buttons. And so yeah, let's start adding the very first interactions to our navbar, and let's start from the CTAs, because we will see that they will be easier to build. And so let's first select our, let's say, base CTA here, and we just want on hover. So let's just open this drop down in the style selector, hover, and here we want to change the background color, and this will be equal to 3545 EE. And yeah, let's just preview the interaction, and it seems that it's working fine. Now, one thing to notice is that we added a transitions for the color as well, but actually we are going to use these transition only for the made in Webflow, probably. Yeah, only for the made in Webflow CTA button. So here we could even do like this. We can remove this from here. So let's get rid of the color transition, and let's add it to this made in Webflow CTA only. So let's add a new transition here. Color, font color, here it is, and that's it. Now let's first move to the CTA contact sale, and here on hover, once again we want to change that just the background color, and the background color this time will be 67, yeah, 83, 255, and instead of 0.9 here, so 0.09, we have 0.16. Now let's preview it. Okay, it's working fine. And now for the made in Webflow CTA, here we just want to change the color, and yeah, we could even get rid of this. Yeah, let's do that. It's not necessary, but just because we need only the color transition here for this CTA button. And so from the drop down, once again, let's select the hover interaction, and the color will change to purple. And that's it. Let's preview it, and it's working just fine. Yeah, on all three CTAs. Now let's move to the drop downs and to nav links. First thing, if we take a look at Webflow website, we want the text color to change from black to purple, and then we have that kind of border that is growing from the bottom. So let's first target the color here. So let's select the drop down toggle, because we added the color transition to the drop down toggle. Once again, let's select the hover interaction here, and let's change the color from black to purple. And now it should work fine on all three drop downs, and that's it. Now let's do the same for the navbar link. So yeah, we've already added the color transition here, and so let's select the hover interaction, and let's change the color for the hover state to purple, and it's working fine for both the nav links. Now, how can we create this interaction, this border that is growing from the bottom? Now, one solution could be to play with the border, maybe. But let's see what happens here, because we want the border to grow. So for example, here on the navbar drop-down toggle, we should start with a border of, yeah, let's first set the color, purple, and then this should be
0 to start with, and then in the hover state, instead of 0, it should be 3, but we can find the right value here by inspecting the page once again. So we can simply make sure that we are selecting the drop down toggle, so this one, and if we go here in the panel, in the style panel here, we can see here this hov that allows us to trigger. In this case, if we click on it, this menu opens up and we can, let's say, trigger the hover interaction. And we can see here that something has changed, because it seems like that this drop down here has been hovered over. And let's just expand this menu a little bit. And what we can see here is that, yeah, of course, it's not a border type kind of interaction. But anyway, yeah, this is the value, the reference value, this 3 pixel here. So yeah, we can start by setting the border width to 3. And let's test it out. We can see that if we use the border, the text get pushed up, because the border is something that is taking up space. And so if it grows from 0 to 3, it will push, because once again it takes up space, it will push the text up. That's why we cannot use it, because yeah, the result would be a bit weird with this text jumping. And so yeah, we need to find another way. And actually, yeah, let's say Webflow is suggesting the right solution here. We need to play with the box shadow, and specifically, so let's first move this border from here, and also remember to go once again to the hover state and get rid of the border here as well. So let's select the drop down toggle. We need to add a box shadow here, but not an outside shadow. We need an inside shadow. And let's start with 180 and see what happens. So the distance will be 3, and the blur will be 0, because we want a solid line. And then the color we want it to be purple. But now we have it at the top. We instead want this line at the bottom. So let's try with 0. So it seems that it's working fine, but now we are in the normal state. And so in the normal state, we don't want to see this kind of border, which is actually a shadow, an inside shadow. So let's set this distance to 0 to start with, and then we can move to the hover state, and under box shadow here, we can edit our box shadow and select 3. Now, Webflow by default, if we set the distance to 0, set the angle to 90. So we have to remember that we need to set it to 0. And that's it. And now we have this kind of border that is growing from the bottom for all our 3 drop-downs. And let's do the same for the simple nav links. So we can select our navbar link here, and let's first add a box shadow. Remember, inside 0, the distance is 3, or actually 0 to start with. The blur is 0 and the color is purple. Now let's move to the hover state, and now this will be, remember, we need to set it once again to 0. First we need to edit the distance, otherwise yeah, Webflow won't allow us to do that. This will be 0, and yeah, that's it. And now we also have this same interaction for the navbar links as well. And now let's start building our mega menus here. So I'm going to select our first drop-down toggle, the product drop-down toggle. Then the drop-down list here, and let's give it a class of navbar drop-down list. And then from the element settings panel, I'm going under drop-down settings menu, I'm going to click on show to display the drop-down list. And one thing that I tend to do every time I have to style a drop-down list is I don't click, let's say, on one of the drop-down link or something, let's say something like drop-down toggle, drop-down icon, and then back to the drop-down list to style it, because otherwise Webflow will apply this open selector, which just means that right now the drop-down list is open. And the reason why I tend to do this is because I want the drop-down list to have the exact same aspect, the exact same style, no matter if it's closed or not. And if we style the drop-down list when the open selector is visible here, it means that we are styling the drop-down list. We are targeting only the drop-down list when it's opened. And this is something that I like to avoid, because from time to time I have to build a custom animation for the drop-down to open, and it could cause a bit of unexpected behaviors or a few issues if you have a different style applied on the drop-down when it's closed and another style when the drop-down is open. So I just make sure that if I want to style the drop-down list, and I just try to make sure that I don't see this open selector here. And so to get rid of it, in this case, when we see it, we can just close the drop-down. We can hide the drop-down from the element settings panel. We can click outside the drop-down list, click on the drop-down list once again, and click on show. And now we just have to make sure not to select another element. And we can see here that we don't have the open selector, the Webflow open selector. And now, how do we have to style our drop-down list? First, the first thing, is I'm going to set the background color for this drop-down list, and this is going to be white. Then we also need a top border, and the color 1 pixel solid, and the color will be our E4, E4, E4. Then let's do the same for the bottom border. So we could even just set the color, and by default Webflow will set the style to solid and the width to 1 pixel. And then about the position, absolute is fine, but we need to set the top to 100%, and the bottom to auto is fine, and left and right need to be 0. But the thing is that if we take a look at Webflow website, and by the way, let's uncheck this hover state that we used before, and we try to open a drop-down menu here, we can see that it's taking up all the available space inside the viewport. And this is not what is happening here. And even if we set, I don't know, the width to 100% or even 100 VW, something is, it seems that something is wrong. And the thing is that we need to change here the reference for the drop-down list. And probably, if we do that, it will be easier then to understand. Now, for example, the drop-down list has its position set to absolute, and this is a children of the navbar drop-down. The navbar drop-down is set to relative, which means that all this offset, and by the way, we have once again the open selector. So once again, let's just hide the drop-down list, click outside, click once again on the drop-down list, and let's open it up. The thing is that All this offset here for the absolute position are referencing the first ancestor of the drop-down list that has a position that is not static. And the first one is navbar, is the navbar drop-down, because its position is set to relative. And so 0 here means that the distance between the border, the left border of the drop-down list and the left border of the navbar drop-down, which is once again the reference for the absolute positioning of the navbar drop-down list, needs to be 0. And the right offset set to 0 means that the distance between the right border of the drop-down list and the right border of the navbar drop-down has to be 0, unless of course we don't set a specific width for our drop-down list. If we set pixel, doesn't work because it's less than the width of the navbar drop-down. But if we set something like 500, of course there's we don't have the chance, let's say, to meet this requirement, so it will just overflow. And the same goes if we just try to set the width to 100 VW. And of course, because of these constraints, it will also be very, very hard to center everything. And so we really need to find a way to change the reference for the width, or actually for the absolute positioning of the drop-down list, so that we can create something like this in a very easy way. And we can do that by simply, by the way, usually you see the reference element here under position, under the position drop-down. We can see that here it's written relative to, and it says navbar. But in this case, it's not true, and we can clearly see it here. And also because anyway, this is how absolute positioning works, and because the navbar drop-down has its position set to relative and it's the parent of the drop-down list, then the navbar drop-down will be the reference element for the absolute positioning of the drop-down list. So yeah, anyway, in this case, this information is not accurate. So what can we do? We can select the navbar drop-down here. We can set its position to static. And now we can see that something happened, something changed. And specifically, the reference element, so here it always says navbar, the reference element for the drop-down list changed from the drop-down to the next ancestor that has a position not set to static. And the next one, if we go up, yeah, not the link item, it's not the link list, but it's the nav menu, the actual nav menu. But this is not enough because the nav menu is not taking up all the space inside the viewport, the width at least, of course. And then let's see what the next one could be. So the next ancestor is the content wrapper, but yeah, this is not what we are looking for. Main container, no. Navbar, the navbar could be, and by the way, because we set its position to sticky, this is a value that is not static, so it could work fine. And also the navbar is taking up all the available space inside the viewport. So yeah, it goes from the left side of the viewport to the right side of the viewport. So this could be yeah, probably the right element to use for as a reference for the drop-down list. And so we can simply select the navbar nav menu here, set its position to static, and if we try to open the drop-down list, and let's do that by first selecting the drop-down list so that we won't see the open selector. Let's click on show from the element settings panel, and we can see that the drop-down list right now is going from one side of the viewport to to the other. And yes, so we are ready. We have the very basic structure of the drop-down list, and we can start, let's say, building the inner structure of this drop-down list and then adding the actual content. So first, let's get rid of this drop-down list, drop-down links. And then inside the drop-down list, and let's open it up once again. Let's first add a div, and this will be our drop-down list content wrapper. Of course, here we are inside the navbar, so probably, let's say, following the same rules that we followed for the other elements. Yeah, I should have called it navbar underscore drop-down list content wrapper, but yeah, that would be a very long name. So instead, we can, let's say, shift to the next level, and because we are let's say building now the drop-down list, we can start we can use as a name for the actual for this div and this name here. So drop-down list, which is, let's say, the element that we are building, the component that we are building, and then content wrapper, because content wrapper describes the purpose of this, the main purpose of this div block. And now this drop-down list content wrapper will be a grid, and this is kind of interesting because this is how Webflow made it in the actual website, and probably we could achieve the exact same result by simply using a main container, as we have done here for the navbar. We simply added a main container with a maximum width, and of course, by default, a container element inside Webflow already has left and right margin set to auto. But in this case, yeah, I thought that it could be quite interesting to show this different solution. That is, by the way, the one that Webflow applies to their website, and they use a grid to center the content. And so let's edit this grid, this content wrapper here, and we don't really need a specific gap here, so we can simply reset both the columns and the rows gap here. And we don't even need this second row here, but we need 3 columns. And the first one, yeah, the first column needs to have a width of 1 fr. The one in the middle, instead, we are going to choose min-max here. And the minimum width will be auto, which just means that it will adjust based on the content inside. But the maximum width will be equal to the maximum width of our main container. And this will allow us to center the content and will allow us to have the exact same constraint for the width that we have on our main container. And so the maximum width will be 1280 divided by 16 rem, so 80 rems. And that's it for this div block. Now, inside this div block, we want to add another div block, and this will be our drop-down list, and we can call it, let's say, links wrapper, because it will host all the links inside our drop-down list. And one thing that we notice is that by default, of course, it's inside the very first column, but we want it to be at the center of our grid, so we need to position it manually. So after selecting the links wrapper here, in the style panel, where it says position here, we click on manual, and we need to make sure that we start from the second column, because we want to position it inside the second column, and also the end needs to be represented by the second column. So yeah, this just means that this div block here will be in the column that is in the middle of our grid. And then we are going to set the display property to flex. And now inside this links wrapper, we are going to add another div, and this will be, let's call it dropdown list left column, which is, yeah, this element here. And here we need, for the padding, we need a value of, for the top padding, a value of 40 divided by 16 REMs. For the bottom padding, a value of 52 divided by 16 REMs. And then right padding, we need 60 divided by 16 REMs. And also here, for the sizing under flex child here, we click on the three dots. And once again, we need 1 for grow, 1 for shrink, and 0% for the basis. But now, where can we find these values here? We can simply go to Webflow homepage here, and after opening the drop-down list, we can once again click on this icon at the top left corner, and we can try to highlight this left column here inside the drop-down list. We click on it, and here we can read the properties that applied, the style properties that have been applied to this element. And we can clearly see that flex is set to 1, which means flex grow 1, flex shrink 1, flex basis 0. And then the background color is white, and also these are the values for the padding. So let's go back to our Webflow designer. And now let's also add inside our links wrapper the right column. So another div block, this will be drop down list, and it will be right column. And for the right column, the color will be FA, which we don't have, but I don't think that we're going to add it to our swatch list. So let's first set the background color, and then we need a left border. So let's add a left border, and the color will be our E4. So this one. And then we also want to set the flex basis to 34%. So it will just try to take up the 34% of the space available inside its parent container, which is the links wrapper. This is what this 34 means. If there's enough space, it will try to fill up the 34% of the available space inside its parent container. And that's it. And now we also need a padding left of 60 divided by 16 REM. And then inside our left column here, we are going to add once again a list, because it will be easier than for screen readers to browse through the content of our drop-down list. And once again, we can call it drop-down list. Let's say we can even call it link list. Let's call it link list. We don't need a padding, we don't need a margin, and we don't need a style. And so this one will just be a grid with, we don't need 2 columns, we just need 1 column. And also the gap, we don't really need a gap for the columns. And for the rows, we need a gap of 40 divided by 16 REMs. And that's it for this list. Now let's go to the list items here, and let's call it drop down list link. This will actually be, because let's take a look here. the items are these things here, this one and this one and then this one. So they are not actually links, they are link groups. And so we can call this class something like dropdown list link group. And inside this link group, we are going to add a text block element, and this will be our drop-down list. It could be link group name, and the color here of the text will be 666. You can also add it to our swatch list because we are going to use it at least a couple of times. And then let's apply also a text transform. Let's capitalize the text. And then we also need a border bottom, or actually a bottom border. So 1 pixel solid. We are going to use not this one, E4, E4, E4. And then let's also apply a bottom margin of 28 divided by 16 REMs. We also need a bottom padding just to, let's say, detach a little bit the border from the actual text of 0.5 REM, so 8 divided by 16 REMs. The font family, it's Roboto Mono. And by the way, the fonts are the only thing that I uploaded before starting this project. Everything, otherwise, we, as we already mentioned, we completely started from scratch. So we have Roboto Mono, which is this one. And the font size needs to be 14 pixels, but let's turn it into REMs. And the font weight needs to be this one, so 400 normal. And let's also take a look. So build a website. And then inside our link group here, let's add another list, because this list here will be the actual let's say link wrapper, because if we go here, will be this one, list wrapping all the actual links inside a specific group. And so we can call it drop down list, and this could be link group list, for example. So we don't need a specific styling. Let's get rid once again of the padding. Let's get rid of the bottom margin. And this will be a grid. And in this case, we want 3 columns. For the moment, we can just get rid of the second row. And then we want a gap between both the columns and the rows of 28 divided by 16 REMs. So 28 divided by 16 REMs. And we want also, I think that we are fine here. And for the list item here, we can call it drop-down list link group list item. Start getting a bit too long, probably. And now this one needs just to have a bottom margin of 8 divided by 16 REM. And inside this list item, let's add the actual link. So let's add a link block, and this will be drop down list, or actually, you know what, because the name is getting really long here, we can once again do something like link group, and this will be link. And inside here, we can set the color to black, and then the font size to 1 rem, line height as usual 1.7. We don't want a text decoration, and we can set the display property to flex. And now let's add inside our link, let's add a div block, and this will be link group icon wrapper. And this icon wrapper will have a width of 1 rem, height of 1 rem, and also a margin right of 1 rem, because then we are going to have text and we want to separate the icon from the actual text, create a bit of spacing. And inside here, we need to add an embed to add the code for the icon. So let's go to the Webflow website here. We can hover over this icon here. It says SVG. And then, yeah, here from the menu on the right, we can right click, copy this element or something like that. We can go back to our Webflow project, paste the code, and then hit save and close. And then this, we can call it, let's say, link group, link group, link icon. Let's also change for consistency this name from link group icon wrapper to link group link icon wrapper. And let's also set this the display property to flex, because here we can see that it has a bit of white space, and for some reason, to be honest, I don't know why, but setting the display property to flex help us reduce at least the amount of space that we have at the bottom. And then inside our link group here, we now have to add another div, and this will be our link group link text wrapper. And inside our link text wrapper, we are going to add a text block, and this will be link group. Let's call it link name, and this will have a right margin of 0.5 rem. I grabbed it from the Webflow's website, but I don't really know why we really need, I don't know if we really need this spacing at the right, but anyway. And then we also need to set the weight, the font weight. Yeah, it was already medium. It's inheriting this from the actual dropdown. Okay. And then the line height, we need to set it to 1.5. Then let's also change the name here. It says designer, so let's write designer. And then let's add another text block, and this will be our link group link description. The color will be this 666. And then let's also, in the meantime, try to copy paste the text. So once again, let's click on the icon at the top left border. Let's try to hover over the text, click on the text here, and we can see that the text is here. And we can double click, copy, go back to our Webflow project and paste the value. And now let's keep on styling. So the margin top here needs to be 1.5 rem. Then we need a font size of 14 divided by 16 rems. And then we also need a font weight of 400. The line height needs to be 1.5. And then, yeah, the decoration is already set to none on this element. And so I think that, yeah, we are fine for this very first element. We are going to add interactions later on. And so what we are going to do right now is we are going to change this, or actually to create a Webflow component out of this link group link element. And we are going to use this component to then build all the left column of the of this drop down. And so let's do that. Let's create a component out of this link here. So there are a couple of ways we could use to create a component out of this element here. We could right click on the label and click on create component, or we can use the shortcut shift control or command, I guess, A. And so let's use the shortcut. So I'm on Windows, so control shift A, and let's call it something like group link, and let's call it left column, because we will most likely create a component for the right column as well. So let's hit create, and we have just created a new component. Now, one thing to notice is that if we try to open this drop down here, and we try to, let's say, click here to edit the component, well, Webflow, yeah, the drop down list gets closed, so we cannot really edit our component or do, yeah, anything with it. And so to actually access the component, we could maybe simply click on the body element here and open the component menu, or yeah, with Shift A, we can add a component to our page. And so we can edit the component from here. And we can see that by clicking on the link name here, we could click on this plus icon to create a new property for this component, so that we can override the name of the link on a different copy, on a different instance of this component. And so let's click here where it says create and connect new property, and let's call it link name, create property, and let's do the same with the link description. So here, text block settings, let's click on this plus icon here, and then create and connect new property. Let's call it link description. And now, one thing to notice is that if we click here on the embed element, we don't have the ability to change the icon for this component. And so probably in this case, the best solution would be to grab the icons from the actual website, save them as images, and then import these images, these SVG images, inside our project, so that we can basically replace this embed element here with an actual image element. But how can we do that? I'll do it once just to show you the process, and then yeah, I will do that on my own. This will be the only thing that I will do on my own, just not to waste too much of your time. But the thing is that we can simply click on our icon at the top left corner, look for the actual SVG or path. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. Then from the path we can search the associated SVG, the related SVG. We can right click on it. We can click on copy element, and then we can use something like a notepad, and like this, we can paste the code here, the SVG code, and we can save it. And we can really save it as even as a txt element. We can write something like, in this case, designer icon, and then if we access the actual folder where we have just saved the file, which is this one, we can simply change, let's say, from txt here, the extension from txt to SVG, confirm, and then we can open it up as an SVG element because this is what it really is. And there we go. This is our SVG. So I'm going to do that for all the icons here. And then I will upload all the images to our Webflow project, and then I will get back to you. And there we go. I've uploaded all the icons here. And as you can see, I also created a purple version for each icon. But why did I do that? If we go to Webflow website, we can see that if we hover over each drop-down link here, well, both the text and the SVG icon turn to purple. But why do we need an additional image, a purple version of the icon? Can we do just like we did here for the logo, where the logo turned to purple by simply editing the font color on hover, just like this? And probably we still have to do that, by the way, so let's do that right now. So as you remember here, we had inside the SVG code this fill property with a value of a current color, and this, as we mentioned, allows us to inherit the color from, in this case, the Navbar brand logo from, let's say, the parent element of the SVG icon. And this will allow us to, for example, here on the Navbar brand element, because we added the color transition, to access the hover state, and then we can modify the font color. And this will allow us to change the color of the icon as well, because the Navbar brand logo, the embed element, will inherit, if we go to the hover state, will inherit the color from the Navbar brand element. And the same will happen to the SVG, to the actual SVG element, because of this fill property with the current color value. But because here we are going to add the image as an image element and not as an SVG embed element, we lose this ability, because the image will appear once again as an image element and not as an SVG embed, will not appear like this. And so, long story short, we are not able to use that fill current color property. And so we just need an additional image to make that transition from black to purple. And so let's do that. Let's edit this this component here. And so let's first select this link group icon, and let's get rid of it because we don't really need it. And instead, inside our icon wrapper, let's add an image, and let's choose an image for the designer. The icon, yeah, here it is. Let's use this icon, and let's also set the width and height. Here we used 1 rem, so let's say that to start with, here we can just use pixels, and so let's say 15 pixels, 15, 16 pixels, 16 pixels for the height as well. And also let's select the image itself, and let's call it link group link image. And here let's also set a specific width here as well, or now we don't really need it, so let's leave it as it is. Anyway, here, because we also need the purple version, we need to duplicate the icon, and we can just add a combo class here. Let's call it CC, combo class purple. And this one, yeah, let's change the image. So we need to pick the purple version of the icon, and then let's make it absolute. And now to position it as properly, let's select the icon wrapper here and let's set its position to relative. So this will be the reference element for our purple icon, so that we can just click on the full option, and we can see that there's some kind of misalignment here, because it seems that if you can see the border of the icon wrapper, the purple icon is perfectly inside it, but the image for some reason is not. And so here, when we don't really know what is happening, we can, we have to try different solutions. And for example, one could be, we can select the icon wrapper and we can set its display property to flex. So let's see if it works. And it seems, and let's also, but the images are not that, let's say, aligned. So maybe what we can do is we can add a bit of margin here to the icon wrapper. So let's see something like 0.25 REMs, a bit less than that probably, 0.2 or even 0.15 seems to be, working better. And now let's also select the purple icon here, and to start with, let's set its opacity to 0. Then we, when we'll take care of the interactions, we'll work on it. And now we can simply click on the first icon here, go to the element settings panel, and here we can click on this plus icon, near the, close to the image label, and we can create a new property, and let's call it icon. And let's create a new property, and then we can also select the purple icon, click on the plus icon here, create a new property, and this will be our purple icon. And that's it. Probably one thing that I'm going to do here is, because these icons, I don't think that they really add meaningful information to what we can read here inside the actual link name or link description. And I think that I'm going to set all these icons to decorative. So let's quickly do that. And so yeah, we marked all these icons as decorative, and we did that because they don't really need a description, an alternative text, which is basically a meaningful description of the icon, because all the and that is useful for accessibility because the alternative text is read by screen readers. And yeah, we decided to not to give a description, an alternative text to these icons, because all the main information is carried by the link name and the link description. And now that we are ready and that our component is ready, we can actually simply delete this one. We can open the drop-down list once again, and we can start adding components to our drop-down list. And so here we need 5 of them to start with. So let's just copy paste it, probably in the right spot. So we need to select this group list item, drop down list link group list item. Let's duplicate it a few times. So we need, or we can delete this default list item. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's duplicate one last time. And now we can simply, from here, without editing the component, by simply highlighting the component and accessing the element settings panel, we can update the 2 icons, the link name and the link description. So let's do that. So the second link is CMS. So let's pick the CMS dark icon, which is this one. Let's pick the purple one, and which is this one. And then the link name is CMS. And the description is, we can grab it from here. So let's just copy paste it. Okay, let's do the same here. The next one is e-commerce. And so the black icon is this one. The purple icon instead is this one. And so this will be e-commerce, and the description is this one. Let's copy paste it here. And now interactions. Let's start by copy pasting the link description. So here, let's paste the description. This will be interactions. Interactions. And then let's pick the icon, the black icon, which is this one. Then we have the purple one, which is this one. And then last link, we have memberships. So let's grab link description. Let's paste it here. Memberships. Then let's pick the icon, and what was it? Okay. So this is the dark one, and then we have the purple one. Here it is. And now we can see that here we also have this beta label here. And how can we add it, and how can we manage it within the context of the Webflow component here? So let's first edit the component. We can click on the pencil icon, for example, and of course we cannot do that this way. So let's add once again our component here directly inside a body element. And so let's edit it, and here we can select the link name and Control or Command E. We can, for example, add a new div block, and we can drag and drop the link name inside that div block, and we can add a class, actually not to, yeah, to the div block, and let's call it link group link name wrapper. And then let's make it a flex box, and then we can add a text block, and this will be, yeah, beta. And by the way, yeah, we can call it link group, let's say link beta label. And now let's try to grab the properties from here. So it says letter spacing. Actually, first let's set the size. Font size 12 pixels. And so this will be 12 divided by 16 rem. Then we have, yeah, capitalize, and then robotomono. So it's not graphic web, but it's robotomono. And then we have letter spacing 0.04 em. So where is it? 0.04 em. And probably we should be done. Yes. And now we can click on this link beta label. We can go to the element settings panel, and here it says visibility. We can click on the visible on the plus icon, create a new property, and we can call it let's say beta label visibility. And that's it, hopefully. So we can go back to the instance, we can delete this one, we can open the drop down, and now we can select the first drop down link, and here it says beta link visibility. We can click on hidden, so yeah, it gets hidden. We can do the same with this one, with this other component. So let's click on hidden once again, and then hidden here. And probably we could do even something better. So let's go back a few steps here, and let's once again add our component, because it seems that the default behavior is that this beta label is not visible. So we can edit the component here. We can select our beta label here, visibility, and let's say property settings, property settings, and it says default visibility. Instead of using the default value, which is visible, we click on hidden. So the default value will be hidden, and by default, this label will be hidden, so that we can just, once again, get rid of this, open the drop-down list, and yeah, for some reason, okay, Webflow didn't update our changes, but anyway, now by default, it gets hidden. But now we can simply select the one that should have the beta label and click on visible to display it. And here we can see that we didn't edit the visibility property, because yeah, there's no it's not highlighted in blue. Here instead, yeah, for example, the link name is highlighted in blue. Same goes for the two icons. So we can clearly see that for the visibility, we are using the default value. And here, instead, we are overriding the default value, and we are setting the label to visible. And now we can finally finish up our left column here of our first drop-down list. And so let's actually, yeah, we could get rid of the default list items here, and we could just duplicate this element a couple of times here, and then we can grab the information from the actual Webflow website. And so here it says optimize for growth. So let's just pick the text from the page itself. And so this is, let's paste it here. And then we just have 3 elements here and then 2 elements in the last link group. Let's also grab this text here, the scale your business text. So let's paste it here. So here we just have 3 elements. So let's just delete, oh, what happened? Let's just delete a couple of actually items, not components. So let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this as well. And then here we just have 2. So let's select this list item. Let's delete it, this one, and this one as well. And so here we have editor. So the text should say editor. Then what is the icon? Oh, yes. So let's replace this one with the editor icon, which is, where is it? This one. Then let's also this one. Okay. Let's also replace the purple one with this one. And then let's pick the description here. So this one, go back to our project. Let's paste it here. Then the next one is logic beta. And so let's first grab the description this time. Go back to our project. Let's paste the description. This should say logic. We want the beta label to be visible and we need to update the icon with the logic icon. Where are you, logic icon? This one. And then the purple one. Where are you? This one. Great. Now the last one is SEO. So let's grab once again the description. So this is the description, SEO, and this is the black icon. And this is the purple icon. And now the scale your business group security is the first one. Let's grab the description. Let's paste it here. Security, and the icon is this one, dark one. Then let's grab the purple one as well, which is this one. And the last element is hosting. So let's grab the description, go back to our project, paste it here. And this is, oh, forgot it, hosting. Okay, let's pick the icon, which is this one and this one. And now we are done with the left column. Now let's move to the right one. And here, let's first add a div block and let's call it, let's say, dropdown right column, oops, content wrapper. Way too long, way too long. Then we need to add a top padding of 40 divided by 16 rem, and then bottom padding we want it to be, let's say, 52 divided by 16 rem. And probably we also want it to expand, I guess. So let's just set this to 100% first. And then, based on what we can see here, we need this exact same element here as well, and it should say explore our site plans. So we can even grab this one, the group name, and we can paste it inside here. And this should say explore our site plans. And then we need a list. So let's add a list. And this will be our, let's say, how did we call this? This is dropdown list, link list. Oh, by the way, this should be dropdown list if you want to be picky. And so because we call it dropdown list, link list, we could say left link list. And this one is dropdown list, right link list. Let's get rid of this bottom margin. Let's get rid of the padding. We don't need a specific styling for this. And then, well, the links. If we take a look here, yeah, these links here share almost the exact same structure as this one. Yeah, we just don't have the icon. And yeah, here we have kind of a padding and the border, but we can definitely start from this link here. So we can even copy paste the component inside here. Let's get rid of the default list items. And then we can right click here on the label, unlink the instance, because we are going to make a new component out of the links of this right column here. And so we don't need the icon, so we can definitely get rid of this link icon wrapper. And then I think we could even, let's say, add a combo class here, or that says, I don't know, cc right, combo class right, to say that this is, yeah, we could do like that. Or we could even edit, for example, the component, which we cannot do directly from the dropdown because we wouldn't see anything. And we could change then the class to something like, yeah, to account for the fact that we are inside the left column. But yeah, let's keep things simple. So probably let's just add a combo class to this one that says cc right. Yeah, let's stick with it. And now we need a top padding of 1 rem. Probably not on the first one, actually. But yeah, we'll do something different. Anyway, yeah, let's add 1 rem padding to both the top and the bottom here. And also, I think that we need this, yeah, we need this text wrapper here to expand. So this is the link group. So we can select the text wrapper here and yeah, click on grow if possible. So something like that. See, because here, yeah, that's fine. So let's also add a bottom border, 1 pixel solid, and the color will be our E4, which is not this one, but this one. And then the font size, yeah, we already have 1 rem. We already, we don't have a transition on the color because probably we haven't added one onto this. Yeah, but we said that we'll manage transitions in a different way. So I think that we are fine. So we can just duplicate this. How many times? 1, 2, 3 times. Oops. Actually, we need to duplicate the list item. 1, 2, 3, so that we have 4 elements. Let's say, oops. Yeah, everything seems to be working fine. And now actually, instead of doing this, because we want to, oops, we have to delete the actual list item because we want to create a new component. Yeah, let's do that first. And before creating the component, we can see here that we have this this other label. So let's add it first, and then let's use component properties to then, yeah, decide whether to show it or hide it. And so here we are already, yeah, here we have the beta label, which we don't really need for the links inside the red column, so we can delete it. And instead we can add a new text block, and this will be, let's say, most popular. So we could call it link group, or actually, how did we call the label here? So let's edit the component just to, so name wrapper, yeah, link group, link beta label. Okay, got it. Link group, link beta label. So this one will be link group, oops, link most popular label. And it should say, of course, most popular. And now it needs to be, yeah, capitalized. Then this should be, I guess, robotomono. And let's grab the properties from here. So it says the color is, yeah, our purple. So color is this one. Then background color, we can actually just copy it from here, go back to our project, and we can paste it where it is here, background color. Let's paste it here. Then it says border radius 100 pixels, just because we want round borders. And then, yeah, it says 0.15 EMs. Yeah, let's, and 1 EM, but let's use REMs instead. And so this will be 0.15 REM, 0.15, and then this will be not point, but yeah, just one REM on the left and 1 REM on the right. Then we have the border radius, which is 100 pixels, and then the font size. The font size here, we can see it from here, is 12, font weight is 400, and we also have 0.04 EM of spacing here. So 0.04 EM, this should be 12 divided by 16, and then the weight is this one. And so I think that we have it. So now we can simply select this component here, or actually the link group, yes, and with the shortcut Ctrl-Alt-Command-Shift-A, we can create a new component. But first, let's see how we called the other one, because I cannot remember. So this was group link left column. Okay, so this will be group link right column. And now, of course, yeah, if we want to edit it, we need to add it from here. We can also use this shortcut Shift-A. So let's paste it directly inside the body element, the right link or the link from the right column. Let's edit the component, and this will be once again, yeah, we can click on the plus icon here, and this will be to create a new property, link name. Then we can click on the description, and here the icon create and connect new property. This will be our link description. Then we can select the label and simply click here on visibility. Let's first set the visibility to hidden. So this will be our default value for the component. And then let's click on the plus icon, create and connect a new property. And this will be, let's call it label visibility. So we might also actually just, let's say, quickly add the left column link here to see how we call that property. It was beta label visibility. Okay, so yeah, just for consistency, we can edit the component here, the one from the right column, and this should be, where are you? Let's select the label here, label visibility, property settings. So this should be most popular label visibility, and that's fine. We can click outside. We can delete this one. We can open the drop down once again. So we can actually select the list item, paste it. How many times? We need 4 elements. 4 elements. So now the second one is the CMS. Let's grab the description. Let's copy it. Let's paste it inside our project. We should say CMS, and we also need to make the label visible. Then let's go back here. Next one is business. By the way, we need to update this one as well. So it's basic. Let's pick the description. Is basic. Then the third one is business. Let's pick the description for this as well. So here, then it was business. And the last one is enterprise. Let's pick the description, back to our project, paste it inside. And then is enterprise. And now we need this very last link here. But first, let's do this, yeah, later. So let's first select our link list, and then Control or Command E. Let's add the new list item. And thank you, Webflow. Show the drop-down list. Okay, we don't see our new list item, but we can just duplicate one of the existing items. We can detach or unlink this instance here, and we need to create this link here. So we can first delete the description. We can also, let's say, how can we call it? We have something like that here as well. We could even call it, add a combo class and call it, I don't know, CC right. Add another combo class that says CC arrow. Probably this is not the most elegant solution, but let's stick with this. And then it should say compare all plans. So compare all plans with a capital letter, not at all. So like this, and we don't really need a bottom border, so we can get rid of it. And then here we can also delete the most popular label. We can just add an embed element. This will be our, let's first copy the code. Let's grab it from website. So inside this div, there's the SVG. Right click, copy element, go back to our project. Let's paste it here and save and close. Let's call this link group link arrow. Let's make it a flexbox, and let's also set the left margin to auto so that we can push it towards the right border of the link, which seems to be a bit too much. No, it's fine. We need to fix this because this should be gray, but it's not. We'll take a look at this in a moment. And then we kind of need to align everything. Probably you can just select the embed element here and align everything to the center. Yeah, I think that it should be fine. And now to tweak the alignment here, because we can see that this basic, because we added, but anyway, because we added here to the text wrapper one rem top padding, we basically moved the content, or there's this misalignment here because of that one rem top padding. And so in this case, an easy solution could be this one. If I only can grab, bar settings, we need this, not this one, but this one. So this list here, the right link list, and we can add a -1 rem, -1 rem top margin to bring it up, and then align everything once again. And now let's try to understand why it should be gray here, but it's not. So we can simply go to Webflow website, and we can select the left column, which is definitely this one. Oh, there's some kind of overlay here, as we can see, with the background color of FA, which is the same that we have on the right column. But we can do like that. We can do like that. So we can close a few things here. So this is our content wrapper to our drop-down list. Actually, not to our drop-down list, but to the drop-down list content wrapper. We can add a div block, and this will be, let's call it drop-down list gray background. And we can position it manually, so it should be inside the third column. So column start, column end, third, and we just need to set its background color. No, not this one. We don't have this color inside the palette, but anyway, inside the color swatch list. But anyway, it was FA. Maybe we could even add it to our swatch list. Let's leave it as it is, so that here, just to make sure, let's set the width to 100% and the height to 100%, so that here we have the light gray background as well. And now that we have our first drop-down list ready, we can, if we see here, the third drop-down is, yeah, almost the same as the product one. So what we are going to do, we are basically going to copy the entire content of this drop-down list and use it to build this other list, because we also have all the components that we need. Here probably we won't use any components. We'll see. But yeah, let's start by duplicating the content from the first drop-down list. And so here, first let's apply this class to the third drop-down list. So let's select the third drop-down list. Okay, we already have it. No, because I selected the drop-down, not the drop-down list. So let's first copy the class, and then here let's select the drop-down list of the resources drop-down once again. Let's paste the name, and then we can simply select all this drop-down list, all the content dropper or the first drop-down list. Let's copy it, and let's first get rid of this default drop-down link, and inside the drop-down list we can paste the content that we have just copied, and we can open the third drop-down, and we can see that we have everything, basically almost everything that we need here. And now let's edit this part of the left column of the drop-down, and then the right side to build the third drop-down list together. Yeah, so let's start. Now the first group name is get started. So let's first edit the text. It says get started. Maybe we can edit the name. It says learn, and then user resources. So learn user resources. And then how many elements do we have? We have 6 elements inside the first group. So let's pick the very last list item. Let's duplicate it. And now let's update the content here. We need the marketplace. As usual, let's copy the description to start with. And then let's paste it. Let's paste it here. Then it should say marketplace. And let's update the icon. It should be this one. And let's pick the purple one. The purple one. Marketplace for the purple one. This one. Awesome. And then the next one, it says templates. Let's grab the description. Let's paste it here. So templates, the icon. Okay, let's update the icon. This one. And well, it's really hard for me to find the purple icons for some reason. Templates. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Third one, made in Webflow. So let's grab the description. Made in Webflow. This should be easy because it's the Webflow icon. Maybe, let's see with the purple one. Oh, here it is. Next one, libraries. So this one, let's pick the description. Libraries. Oh, what should be the icon? Okay. This, we need the dark one first. Okay. Yeah, what happened? This one. Libraries. And then this one. Oh, oops. So this one and then this one. Okay. Now we have it. Now hire an expert. Description. And so hire an expert. I guess yes. So the icon is this one. And then we have the purple one. Ooh, super quick. And then we can even reset here the beta label visibility because we don't need it. So yeah, it should be hidden. And now here, let's grab, so Webflow apps, let's grab the description. So description, let's replace the icon, which should be this one. And then to this one. And here as well, we don't need the beta label. So we can just, once again, click here, beta label visibility, reset, to reset the property to the default value for our component, which is hidden. And now we have the blog. So 3 items. Let's pick the description here. Yeah, we already have 3 items. Let's paste it here. So this should say blog. Let's pick the blog icon, which is this one. Now let's pick the purple one. And it's, where is it? Oh, so tough for me. Oh, great. Then the next one, resources. Let's pick description. Resources. Okay, the book icon, kind of. So let's replace it. We select the book icon, which is this one. Then this one. And we don't need the beta label, so we can simply, once again, click on the property and reset it. And for some reason, once again, okay, let's open it up once again. For some reason, this icon is very, very small. This one as well. So let's try to add a component here. Component. Let's select the image. First, let's edit the component. Then let's select the image. And it says 1616, but probably this is not true for all these icons. Because this one, for example, is, yeah, it should be actually. So it seems, yeah, this one is 17, but anyway, this shouldn't be an issue. So let's delete the value for the height. Let's see if Webflow allows us to set the height to auto. Seems so. And then maybe we could try to force it from here as well. I don't know. Let's try to write one, not to the purple one actually. We need to select the link group link image, so one rem. And let's see if this solves the issue. Or maybe, you know what? We could even, because this is a flex child, we could even try to set the sizing to don't shrink or grow, so that this will always stay the same with this size here. And we can even, yeah, let's leave it as it is. Okay, let's try like this. So back to the instance. Let's get rid of this. Let's open the resources, drop down. Yeah, and it seems that this solved the issue. Great. Oh, we could even do something like this. We can add, just to see what was specifically, we can add this one, an instance, once again. We can pick the resources icon here because it was the one giving us an headache. And so we can edit the component. Let's try to get rid of this don't shrink or grow property. And let's see what happens. So it's no, the problem is not this one. So maybe it was the size of the image. Let's get rid of this width, one rem. Let's go outside. And it seems that everything is working fine anyway. But here, for some reason, is smaller than it should. And so once again, let's select the image. Let's set the width to 1 rem. Let's open the resources dropdown. No, so I guess that the issue is solved by, let's say, setting on the icon wrapper here the sizing property to don't shrink or grow, because now if we open this drop down, yeah, we can see that everything is working. So that was the thing solving the issue, setting setting on the icon wrapper the sizing property under flex child to don't shrink or grow. Okay, yeah, we got it. So let's delete this once again. Let's open the drop down for, I don't know. And then, so we have the learn part, we have the blog, we have the resources, Webflow TV. Let's grab the description here to our project. So description, Webflow TV, and it should be this one. And then for some reason I selected the wrong one. So this one and this one. And then here we just have developers and community. And this gives us the chance to add one more property to our component. So first, let's write here developers, and then it was community. Community, and the icon, the community icon is, where is it? This one. And then this one. And developer icon, of course, is that icon. So this one and this one. Great. So we can add a visibility property, and we have to do it from, by first adding an instance of the component to the body element. So let's edit the component. We add a visibility property for the description. So let's select the description here, and this little plus icon, once again, create and connect a new property, and this will be link description visibility. And now we can get rid of this. Let's open the drop down. Here we don't need a description, so we can simply here click on link description visibility hidden. Let's do the same here, link description visibility hidden. And I think that we are done with the left column. Now let's go to the right one. Okay, so first here it says Webflow University. So Webflow University. And now for some reason this is not a group. I did something previously. But anyway, this could help us because this is definitely not a not a component, or we don't want to make a component out of this. And so here we could simply we have the name wrapper, text wrapper. So inside the link group we need an image. We have to bring it up here, and so we first need to save this image. Let's select the element here, let's hover over the link, let's open it up, then let's save the image, and then I'll bring it inside the project. So here, let's drag and drop it, and now let's choose the image. Let's select this one, which is huge. But now if we see here, let's select the image. Here it says width 90. So we can simply first close this tab because we don't need it anymore, and we can set the width to 90 pixels, and then the height should be auto, which should be, but let's just call it link group link image. Oh, we have it. So we can call it link group, let's say link group, we can say link group link image, and then let's add simply a combo class cc right colon, and then it should be 90 divided by 16 rem, and let's say the height should be auto. And then also by looking at this, it should have a right margin on 24, and I don't know if setting this to cover, something changes, but let's leave it as fill for the moment. Anyway, we need a right margin of 24 divided by 16 rem. And then let's test this. If on the link group we've set the line to center, what we break everything. So let's just leave it as it is and set this to let's just set this to color. Okay, we have it. And now here it says Webflow 101. Then let's also grab the description. So description, here Webflow 101, and I think that we really need to do something for this image. Let's try to set the height to 95 then, instead of auto. So 95 divided by 16, yeah. And here, yeah, by default, let's say 95. Yeah, probably it's better, but we are still missing something. Oh, because here we have this one REM padding. So here let's instead add one REM margin, I would say. Okay, now we have it. And now here we could even think of these links as, yeah, we could build these links out of this component, maybe here as well. We could add another property. So let's close the drop down. Let's add a right column link here, and let's edit the component. We can click on the description, and here as well we can add, yeah, a visibility property. So let's create a new property, and this will be link description visibility. Now by default the description is visible, but for our resources drop down we don't want to see the description. So let's pick the first link here. We can reset the most popular label visibility property, and then it should say 20-day portfolio course. So let's select the text, let's copy the text, paste it here, and then link description visibility hidden. And the next one, building a business website. So let's copy the text, let's go here, let's paste in here, link description visibility hidden. Next one, Figma to Webflow course. Let's copy the text, let's go here, paste, and let's also hide the description. By the way, we could even select all these links and anyway, yeah, reset the description field, description property, because we are not gonna use it anyway. Then after the Figma, we have visit Webflow University. So let's copy the text and let's paste it here. And then we basically have another list just like this one. So we can select the whole list, this one, the drop down list, right link list. Let's paste it, copy paste it. So let's first get rid of this first item, this one as well, this one as well, this one as well. We just need, oh, actually we also need this one. So let's get rid of the list, and instead first probably, okay, maybe we could keep the list. So Control C, then we just need to let's say copy paste the group name. Let's bring this group name below the first list but above the second one, and so this should say get help. Get help, and we then have two links, or basically, yeah, oops, we need to yeah, we can actually just copy one of these components here, and we can delete this link group link, open once again the drop down, and inside the list item we can paste the component, and we can copy paste once this list item. And here we just need to update the text. So the first one should say support, and the second one should say forum. And we are probably fine. The only thing is that the last one should not have the border bottom. So probably in this case, instead of using a component, yeah, we need to unlink this instance. So right click on the label, unlink instance, and probably we had kind of a combo class. Probably not for this one. Let's open the product dropdown. And inside the product dropdown, oh, because it was on this arrow. Okay, it was on this. Oh, but actually inside, okay, it's not on the link, but on the text wrapper. This combo class that hides the border. So the text wrapper, CC right, oh, CC arrow, because it was on the arrow. Okay, so probably we should rename this to something like no border. Yeah, but let's leave it as it is. It's not that crucial anyway. And now the last thing that we have to fix, we need to add a bit of margin. Here we can say that how much margin do we have? Oh, here on the first list we have a 40 pixel bottom margin. So we can simply select the first list, and we can even write cc combo class first and add a bottom margin of 40 divided by 16 rem. And I think that we are done. So now we can move to this one, and inside this one, specifically for this couple of links, we are going to connect Webflow Components with Webflow CMS. And so yeah, let's do that. I think that to build the solutions dropdown, we can start from the content of the product dropdown, though there are a few differences. For example, here, if we look at the left column, the product dropdown has 3 columns, while the solutions dropdown has just 2 columns. But yeah, let's go step by step. So let's first go back to our designer, and then let's grab this class here, dropdown list class, and let's apply it to the drop-down list of the solutions drop-down. So let's paste the name of the class, and then we can get rid of the drop-down links. Then we can copy all the content from the first drop-down and then paste it inside the solutions drop-down list. Then we can open it up. And now, for example, we can start by deleting a few things. Everything that we don't really need, like this second group and this third group, I guess, yes. And then we can select this overall drop-down list, left link list. And I think that here, let's inspect. This is the one, yes, okay. Here, to be honest, we can simply delete one row, and this won't affect the product drop down because anyway new rows will be generated based on the content inside. So let's go back to our solutions drop down, and here probably this is the one that we need to edit. Yeah, because this has 3 columns, but we need just 2. And so I think that we can simply add a combo class. Let's call it CC solutions, because this is the link group list inside the solutions drop-down list. And here let's edit the grid, and we can get rid of 1 column. And I think that we are fine. Now, here it says Webflow 4. And so let's write Webflow 4 here as well. And then here we have freelancers and agencies. So once again, let's copy the description here. Let's go to the element settings panel, paste the description. Here it says freelancers and agency. Yeah, probably should be better. Would be better if I just copy paste. So this one, go back, paste the name of the link, and then let's replace the icon. Let's see if I can find it. So freelancers and agencies, and okay, that icon. Oh, this one, great. Oops, replace image, this image, great. Let's do the same with the purple version, which is this one. And then the second one, it says startups. Let's copy the description. Let's paste the description. Startups. Okay, so the purple icon for the startup should be this one. Then the dark icon is this one. And then after that, we have classrooms. Let's copy the description. Okay, so classrooms. Change the icon. So the dark icon should be this one. And the purple icon is this one. And finally we have enterprise. So copy the description. Okay, enterprise is the image, purple icon, this one. And the black icon is this one. Then we can get rid of this list item because 4 are enough. And now, right column here, it says customer stories. So let's update the text first. Customers stories. Oops. And now the last link, it says view all customer stories. Let's copy the text. So here it says view all customer stories. And now I think that we are basically going to use this this component, but we are going to connect this component with a CMS collection, because maybe here you want to list different customer stories, you want to update these customer stories, whatever, and you want to grab elements from the CMS. So it could be a good example of how to use components in conjunction with Webflow CMS. And so let's first, I think, let's first delete all this list item. 2, 3, yes. And then let's create a new collection. Let's call it customers stories, customer stories. And then here, yeah, we just have a name and a description. So let's stick with that. So this would be customer name, say field, add a new field, plain text. For short text, yeah, let's keep it short text. And yeah, this could be, let's call it description or brief description, something like that. Then of course we can also have, let's say that we want to showcase this inside another page, I don't know. So yeah, maybe we could have a cover image, and then we could have a rich text. We can call it, I don't know, detailed description, whatever. But we are just going to use the customer name and the brief description. Let's hit save, and then let's create the collection. And now you're about to close with unsaved changes. Okay, cancel. Create collection. Okay, we're fine. So let's add a new customer story here, and let's grab the first two elements from Webflow's nav menu. So Rakuten, okay, let's copy the text from here. This will go under brief description. This will be Rakuten. And let's create a new item. Let's add a new one. And this will be hello sign. Let's copy the description. Let's paste the description here. Name is, I also wrote the name of the field wrong. This should be custom, once again, customer name. Yeah, it should work fine now. Save collection. Now let's add just another one, but this could be, I don't know, fake customer. And we can just write this is a fake customer story description, just because, yeah, we want to also use not use but limit the items that we want to display. So let's add one more item. We won't show it anyway, and so what we can do here is let's directly add a collection list. Let's bring it up before this right link list with the view all customer stories. Anyway, let's double click to connect our customer stories CMS collection. We just wanna display two items, so limit items, show two. Then yeah, we will, okay, fake customer, hello sign. So probably we should change the sort order and use something like created on oldest to newest, because we first created Rakuten, then hello sign, and then the fake customer story. And so this could be drop down list customer story list wrapper. And then this one, actually, we are probably going to use, no, let's add a new class. It will be dropdown list customer story list. And this, if we take a look here, this list here is just a grid with two columns and a gap between the rows of 16 pixels, I guess. Or between the rows, but we need it between the columns, so it's 28. And so this will be a grid with just two columns We're not interested in the gap between the rows, so we can just reset the property, and then this will be 28 divided by 16 REMs. And then inside here, this will be our, by the way, this should be, we need to be picky, drop down. And then in this one will be our drop down list, customer story item. And inside here, we can add a new, actually not a new, but one of our components, the right column component here. And if we select the first one, here we can grab, if we click on the plus icon, we can grab the text for the link name from our customer name, and we can grab the description plus icon from the brief description. And for some reason we don't have a brief, it seems that we don't have a brief description for a low sign. Oh, because I pasted inside the detail description. Oh, that's great. So brief description, let's paste it. And let's also see what happened to our, for example, product drop-down list. Nothing, because of course these are properties. So even if in the solutions drop-down we linked both the name and the description to the CMS, of course nothing changed inside the product drop-down list, even if we are using the exact same component, because of course we created properties in advance. So here we overridden the properties with these specific values. And so yeah, even if we connect these two components here, or these two instances of the same component to the CMS, nothing will happen. So this is fine. Now, because of, if you remember here, we had, let's edit the component. And we cannot do this, but anyway, let's paste it here. If you remember, if we edit the component, here we have this one REM top padding. And so this was causing kind of a misalignment here. Resources, no, solution. A misalignment here. This text here is not aligned with this one. So we can just select, as we have done for the resources drop-down list, we can simply select, in this case, the list wrapper and add -1 REM top margin. And then let's see, we should have a bit of space here, which we don't have for some reason. Oh, and that's because this one is okay. This also has a -1 REM margin. So if we say first, nope, it's not the right one. So probably we should just add a combo class here. Let's say cc no margin. Set this to 0. And so there we go. We have also created the drop-down list for the solutions drop-down. And we also connected components to the CMS. And now we will take care of the hover interactions here on all the drop-down links. And as a final touch, we will create an animation for this drop downs to open. So instead of having something like this abrupt change here, we'll try to make the drop down slide from the top. We will make this overlay. If you see, close it, then I open and drop down. We'll make this kind of dark overlay fade in, and we are also going to rotate this arrow. So yeah, kind of a final touch to this project. And yeah, so let's keep on going. And so let's do that. Now, what kind of interactions do we need to create here for the links? Here, basically, if we hover over link, we need the purple icon to show up, and we also want the text, the name of the link, to be to turn into purple, and we also wanna have this kind of underline below the name of the link. Yeah, same here. Yeah, here the icon needs to turn to purple. Then what other kind of link do we want? Yeah, basically we want the name and the icon to turn into purple, and we want an underline to appear under the name of the link. So let's go back to our designer, and now let's, with Command or Control E, let's type component. There's another way to add component to our page. And let's take the left column component first. Now, let's edit this component slightly, because here we wanna, let's select the link name. We wanna add an underline, which in this case, because we are going to use Webflow interactions, it would be way easier to just use a bottom border, because at least we have the ability to animate the color of the bottom border. And so let's do that. We can add a bottom border, so 1 pixel solid, and the color, it could be, let's say, statable, but it really doesn't matter, because anyway we are going to drop the opacity to 0. And then I think that we are ready to add an interaction here. So let's select the link group link. Let's go to the interactions panel, element trigger plus icon, and then mouse hover. Yeah, let's select desktop only, because it's hover interaction. So let's start an animation here. Let's add a new animation. Let's call it, this will be link group. Actually, link group link, or let's call it, drop down link. That is, let's say, the element that will be affected by this animation. And then let's call it on hover, which is the interaction that we are going to apply. Then let's start with initial states. So let's first select this image here, which should be, I don't remember if this, let's see, this is the dark icon. And so let's make turn the opacity to 0. Then this should be let's say opacity CC purple. This is the dark one, so actually the opacity is 100. Then for the purple icon, the opacity needs to be 0. Then the color of the link name, so text color should be black. And then also with this link name selected here, we can click on the plus icon and let's say border color. And border color, we have to start with transparent. So let's select this purple here, and then let's go to opacity 0. So basically we are going to animate the opacity of the border. So let's select everything. So we can click on the very last action here. Then hold Shift and then click on the very first element. And then let's check here this option, set as initial state. And now we can duplicate everything. So right click, duplicate. We can make it last, I don't know, 0.3 seconds, 0.2, and use ease here. And now the opacity of the black one should be 0. And then the opacity of the purple one should be 100. The border color, we need to change it to full opacity. And then text color needs to change to purple. Let's try to preview it. And it seems to be working fine. Let's hit save. Let's go to preview mode. Yeah, it's working. And of course, we need now to add the hover out interaction. How can we do that? So let's first, under the hover out drop down here, select an action, start an animation. And here, instead of creating a brand new animation, let's duplicate the on hover interaction. Let's rename the copy to on hover out. Let's open it up, and here we can basically just get rid of all the initial states. And then opacity of the black link should go to 100, back to 100. Border color opacity needs to be dropped to 0. Text color, this needs to go back to black. And opacity of the purple icon needs to go to 0. Let's hit save. And also don't forget here to, under trigger settings, to click on class, so that this will be applied to all the elements that have this link group link class applied. So let's go to preview mode. And yeah, it's working just fine. And now let's try to see, let's try to open up the first drop down. So here is working. Then we have this one, this one. Okay. And it's working, of course, on all the elements. Now, one thing that we need to do, or actually a couple of things, we forgot to, if we take a look here at the Webflow website, the beta label needs to be purple on hover. And also here on this type of links, we also want this icon to be purple. And so how can we do that? We can first exit preview mode. Then we could first edit once again this component here. And we can select inside the link name wrapper the beta label here. Actually, before doing that, let's select the group link. Let's open the animation on hover. And then here, inside the name wrapper, we can select the beta label, add an action here, the text color. So let's drag and drop it onto the initial states. For the initial states, this need to have a black color. Then we can duplicate this action. We can drag and drop it onto the other actions here. This should have a duration of 0.2 seconds, then ease, just like all the others actions. And then we can turn this to purple. And we don't have to forget to add the same or the reversed action here on over out. So let's select the beta label, hit the plus icon to add an action, and then text color. Let's bring this action, drag and drop it onto the other actions, and then text color needs to go back to black, 0.2 seconds, and then ease. Let's hit save. Let's go to preview mode. Let's open this up. And what is happening? Okay, something in Webflow. yeah, it's working fine. I just needed to exit the preview mode and enter it once again. And now, how can we fix this thing here? So this is kind of tricky. I mean, if we wanna reuse the exact same animation, it could be a bit tricky at first, but indeed it's quite easy. So let's open the product dropdown, because we don't actually have the arrow icon inside the component. So we need to open this drop down here, select this link group link element, the one with the arrow, and let's say edit the animation from here. So we can open the animation from here, the exact same animation that we have just built. And then we can, from here, we can select the link group link arrow element, so that we can add a new action and say text color. Let's bring this onto the initial states. We have to start from black. Then we can duplicate it. We can drop it onto the other actions here. And this needs to be purple as well. All elements with this class, of course. Or actually not all elements, but only children with this class. Because otherwise all the elements, inside the page that have this link arrow class will turn into purple, and we don't want it to happen. Duration of 0.2 seconds, and then ease. Hit save. Now to see something on the screen, let's open the drop down once again. Let's select this link again, then interactions panel. Let's open the on hover out. Let's select once again the link arrow, plus icon to add an action, and then text color. We can drag and drop it onto the other actions here. The text need to turn into black. Duration of 0.2 seconds, and ease. Let's hit save, and now let's try to go to preview mode. So here is, everything is working as expected. We go here and yeah, the arrow is turning to purple and then back to black. Let's open the solution drop down, and here it's working just fine on all links. Yeah, everything seems to be working great. Oh, better than expected, except from this one. But here, instead of complicated things even further, we can just open the resources drop down, and because here basically we are using the exact same class, base class, though it has this right column here, this combo class applied. So probably we could add, we could do something, basically the same thing that we did for this type of link. So we can select this link here, link group link, and we can edit the animation from here, so that we can select this image, because this image has, of course, the link image class applied, which is this base class here. But also, let's open the dropdown once again. But it also has the CC right column class applied. And so we could use this link to target this specific combo class. So go back to our animation here. Let's open it up. Basically, we just want this element to be always visible. So we can simply select the image, click on the plus icon, opacity, and let's say this needs to be 100% initial states. And to make sure that everything works fine, let's make a copy. Let's drag and drop it onto the other elements. 100% anyway, 0.2, even if we don't really need it. Default and ease for the easing, and let's do the same for the hover out. So let's select once again this image. This just to ensure that nothing strange happens if we just set the initial states as with an opacity of 100%. So it's better to anyway to put this opacity action everywhere, just to make sure that it is always that it always has a 100% opacity. So let's hit save, and then let's go to preview mode. Let's see what happens. It's working, it's working. And if we go here, yeah, we can hover out. And of course, as you can see, yeah, the animation on the icons is working fine. And so, yeah, we have it. Now, very last step, we are going to add, as we've already mentioned, we are going to add an animation to open and close the drop down, something a bit smoother, just to make it a bit, yeah, I would say better than the actual interaction here inside Webflow website. So yeah, let's go. And so let's first define the type of interaction, or actually the type of animation that we want to build. So I think that I'm gonna play with the height of the drop down. So let's say we will start from a height of 0, and then it will expand from the top to the bottom. And then we are also going to, let's say, rotate this arrow here. So how can we do that? Let's first select one of the drop downs. Let's say this one. We need to select the drop down here, and here where it says element trigger plus icon, drop down opens interaction here. Then action, start an animation, and new animation. Let's call it, not animation, let's call it drop down and then opens. So yeah, drop down once again is, let's say, the element that we are targeting, and opens is just what the animation does, or will do actually. And so let's first select the drop down list. And we said that we want to play with the size. And so we want the width to be always 100%. So yeah, just to make sure that everything works fine, let's put it here, even if this value will stay the same anyway. And so the height will be 0 to start with. This is our initial state. And then let's select our drop-down icon. And here let's add a rotate transform, or rotate transform action. Let's drag and drop it onto the other initial state. And here we want to target the rotation around the z-axis. So let's start with 0. Then we can hold Ctrl or Command to select the other interaction. Right click, duplicate. And now let's first set the duration. Let's say, I don't know, let's start with 0.3. And then let's also use ease. And then here, the size needs to be 100% for the width, and then the height should be auto. And then rotate, we want to rotate by, it should be 180 degrees. Let's hit save, and let's see what happens. So preview mode, try to open, and you can see that it's definitely not working as expected. And so let's try to understand why. First, it's better to add also the menu closes or the animation for the drop down when the menu closes, and then so that we can better see what's happening. So once again, let's start from the animation that we have already built. So let's duplicate it, and let's call the duplicated animation closes. And let's open it up. We can get rid, of course, of the initial states, because we already have initial states in the open animation. And then here the size, this should go back to 0. And then the rotation, the rotation as well should go back to 0. And then let's hit save. By the way, one thing that we don't have to forget And to keep in mind is that we need here under trigger settings, we need to select class to make sure that this interaction, and so it is a couple of animations, are used for all the elements that have the navbar dropdown class applied. So not only to this element, but also to this dropdown and this other dropdown. So if we select here, for example, the dropdown, the third dropdown, we can see that the interaction is here as well. And so let's try to, once again, to go to preview mode. Let's try to open it up. And as you can see, probably from the video is barely visible. So let's do something like this. Let's modify for a moment the duration for the size step or the size action. Let's make it last 3 seconds instead of 0.3 seconds. And let's do the same for the other animation. So here for the size step, let's type 3 instead of 0.3. And then let's go back to preview mode. We click to open and we can see that probably if I change for a moment the background color of the drop-down list, it will be even more visible. So let's go with purple. It will be horrible, but anyway. So if you can see here, it seems that the drop-down is actually expanding. By the way, I don't know why the closing animation seems, seems that it's not working, but you can see that the drop down is expanding, but the content is already there. So it seems like the content is kind of overflowing the actual size of the actual height of the drop down list. And this is because the drop down list here has its overflow property set to visible by default. So let's try to set the overflow property to hidden so that the content won't overflow the size of its parent container, which in this case is the drop-down list. And so let's also get rid of this purple background color. And let's go back to preview mode. And we can see now that it seems to be working just fine, except for the fact that I didn't, shouldn't have reset the color because they should be white anyway. And also the closing animation seems to be not working as expected. So let's try to understand why. So it is, I probably know why. Because let's first set the duration back to 0.3 here, and let's say size 0.3 here as well. Let's hit save, go to preview mode. Opening animation works, the other doesn't. And the thing is that if we select, for example, the drop down toggle or the drop down, whatever, if we go to the element settings panel, we can see that the close delay is 0 milliseconds, which means that the navbar, or not the navbar, the drop down is closed, right after our click on the drop down toggle. And so let's try to do that. Let's try to see, let's take into consideration our actual animation, the closing animation. It lasts for 0.3 seconds. We can read it here. So let's try here to type, instead of having close delay of 0.3 seconds is equal to 300 milliseconds. So let's type 300 here and let's see what happens. And by the way, we're doing this only for the product dropdown. So this is not true for the moment. For example, for the other two drop downs, we will fix this as in case it works. So let's go to preview mode. We can open it up. Okay, it's fine. And yeah, it seems that it's working because we are delaying the actual closing of the drop down. And so if we delay the closing of the drop down by an amount that is equal to the duration of our animation, everything will work as expected. And so let's do this for the other two drop downs as well. So 300 milliseconds and 300 milliseconds here as well. So let's go to preview mode, and this is working fine. This one is working fine as well, and this one is working fine as well. And yes, and of course we can open all the drop downs as much as we want, as many times as we want. And yeah, the arrow is also rotating properly. And there's actually one very last step that we need to add to our drop down animations, and it is the overlay. I was about to forget it, but anyway, let's add it. But first, let's assign a background image to the body, just because I want to show you that the overlay is actually working. So let's have an image as a background so the effect is more visible. So let's select the body tag here, image and gradient, choose an image. Let's use this one. Then we don't want it to tile with 100%, and that's it. Yeah, this image is here just to show that the overlay is working fine. So nothing more than that. So now let's select our drop down. Let's open the interactions panel. Let's open the opens animation here. And actually first we need to add our overlay. So let's add the div block. Let's bring it at the very top of the page. Let's click on down because we need to first style this div block. So let's give it a class of overlay. Its position needs to be set to fixed with the option full. And then let's pick a background, not a background image, just a background color. Let's pick the black color here. Let's drop the opacity to 50, maybe 60, 55. And now we can animate it. By the way, actually, this could even be below the navbar. We just have to make sure anyway that the navbar has a z-index greater than the one of the overlay. So just to make sure that nothing weird will happen, let's set the z-index to 1000 and this one to, let's say 0. And then let's select one of our drop downs, interactions panel. Now we can really open the opens animation. We can select the overlay. Let's click here on the plus icon, select the opacity property. Let's bring this step on top of the initial conditions. To start with, the opacity needs to be 0. Then we can right click, duplicate this step here, bring it down onto the other steps. The opacity now needs to be 100%. The duration was 0.3 and the easing was ease. So easing is duration of 0.3. And let's preview the animation, which is working fine, I guess. Let's go to preview mode. Yes, and of course we need to tweak the drop-down closes animation. And so this is actually an easy fix, so we don't need to, let's say, delete the animation, duplicate the opens animation, and then tweak everything once again, because it's just a matter of tweaking the acting on the opacity of the overlay. So let's select the overlay element. Once again, plus icon, opacity. Let's bring this on top, onto the other elements. Duration of 0.3 ease, and now this needs to go to 0. Save, and we should be ready to go. Product open, product close, solutions open, solutions close, resources open, solutions open. So probably there's some kind of conflicts, because yeah, but this is definitely something that we can expect, because of the default behavior of the Webflow drop-down element. Because if we click on another drop-down to open, then the other one will be closed. And then, of course, these two animations will conflict with one another. And so probably there's an easy way out here. Let's test this out, because anyway the overlay is just one, so it will be targeted by all basically the drop downs when they open or close. But maybe the thing is that the drop down, the opacity of the drop down is brought to 100 when the drop down opens, and is brought to 0 when the drop down closes. Now probably we can try to set the duration of the opening animation to something a bit more than 0.3. So let's say maybe 0.35, so that hopefully when we open a drop down, here of course is working fine. Yeah, the other one closes, but because the opening animation lasts just a bit more than the closing animation will try to set the opacity of the overlay to 0. But because the opening animation ends after the closing one, then the opening animation will bring the opacity of the overlay back to 100. And this is why now it's working. So yeah, it's not perfect, but anyway, yeah, it's, let's say, an easy way out. And of course, if we open and close a single drop down before opening the other, everything works as expected. So this effect is even visible on the actual Webflow website, even if the animation is abrupt or the change is abrupt. I don't know if you can see that, but from time to time, if I switch from one drop down to another, the overlay is kind of flickering. So yeah, there's not too much we can do to deal with that. But anyway, if we don't really like this thing here, we can simply, yeah, of course, delete the overlay and just stick with the previous version of the animation. And yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching this long video, and I really hope that you learned something useful from it. And if you have any suggestions or want to share thoughts about things I might improve, well, feel absolutely free to throw a comment down below. Today my recommendation is a song from a band called Bolivia, and the song is called Playing God. So, see you next time. Ja, matane!